It's very, very.
We are back with the one and only Bob Daisley, Down Under. Bob, of course, you know him from The Blizzard of Oz. You know him from Rainbow. You know him from Widowmaker. You know him from Gary Moore and so much more. Bob, we are connected. Cali to
Hello.
Sydney. How are you?
All right. Yes. Good. Thank you. Yeah. And yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm glad you got over your flu, man. It must have been horrible.
Yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago, and it did knock me about at the time, but I'm still on the green side of the turf and upright.
Well, there we go. And I got to let our listeners know, Bob and I appreciate the mighty Monty Python. So, any of you Python fans out there, uh, join in. We love to have the argument clinic or the pet store or the cheese
Oh
shop
yeah,
or
I've always been a Python fan. Love their stuff. There's quite a few Python-esque sorts of comments in my book, and
oh
I
yeah.
suppose if people are Python fans, they would understand and get it. But some people might read certain bits in my book and think, "What the fuck is he on about?"
So, did you first encounter Monty Python on the BBC? Is that where you saw it first?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
No,
They
we got
used
it
to be
years
on.
later, on PBS
Oh,
over
right.
here. I
Yeah.
discovered it in college.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we'd all get together and roll a couple up and smoke some and
well, that was
watch
the thing.
Python.
It was like an event, wasn't it?
Oh my God.
Python on
But
once a
without
week.
commercials, it was over in like 22 minutes because it was a half
Yeah,
hour,
yeah,
and I'm sure the
yeah,
BBC played commercials, but over here, PBS would just air and it would be over before we knew it. And we were just like, oh
yeah.
man, we got to wait a whole nother week for that.
And the whole thing was very trippy. We used to think, God, what are these guys on? But they weren't on anything. Apparently, when they were writing the stuff and making the each episode, the most they did was a few drinks each, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, very clever stuff, though. Very,
oh my
very,
God.
very clever
Yeah.
stuff.
I guess in a way, you would almost have to be sober to come up with brilliant stuff like that. Because if you were
Yeah,
wasted,
I
it
know
might
that.
sound good to
But
you, but you wake
I
up the
think
next
Life
day
of
and like, oh,
Brian,
that's a bunch of
yeah,
shit.
when you look at Life of Brian, it still holds up to this day, and that's like over 40 years ago. It came out in 1979
Yeah.
because I remember Randy Rhoads and I went and saw it in London when it first came out
Oh
at
my gosh.
in Edgware Road. Yeah, he and I went to the movies and saw
Yeah.
Life of Brian for the first time, and that movie. I think it was done in like 6 weeks or it was some
Yeah.
ridiculous
It was a
time.
lot of brilliance, just banged it
And
out.
it
And
still holds up today, and it's still
well,
funny.
yeah.
It's
And
still
the Holy
witty. It's
Grail. I
still
mean,
applicable. It's
I
still
flipped out
appropriate.
seeing the Holy Grail because after seeing these little 22-minute episodes, I'm like, wow, I got an hour and a half, almost 2 hours
Yeah,
of Python. And
yeah.
I'm sure that movie was also made within a few weeks.
Holy Grail was another brilliant one. Yep, certainly.
But like I told you, when I moved to LA in 1980 from the Vancouver, Seattle market, I
Oh yeah,
grown up all over the world, but I started school and watching the BBC. But before Python, it was more 66, 64, the British invasion times. I'd watch Top of the
right.
Pops and Old Grey Whistle Test, all
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But,
yeah.
my first show at the Hollywood Bowl, the famed outdoor amphitheater right here on Highland Boulevard, just north of Hollywood Boulevard, I saw the live Monty Python, which they
Oh,
made
you
into a
were at that
movie.
show. You were at
Yeah,
that show.
I
Oh,
was at
great.
that show. It was 3 nights
Albatross.
actually, but
Albatross.
yeah, the Albatross.
Yeah,
John Cleese walking through the crowd
yeah,
with the concession, and yeah, they interacted with the audience. I couldn't believe it, just coming to
yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah. You get wafers with it.
There you go. You don't get bloody wafers with it.
What flavor is it? Fucking seabird flavor.
There you go. Oh, it was, and people were dressed up, like Bruce and various,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, 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 yeah.
Palin with the thing on his head, the little.
Well, that was released on a video, wasn't it?
Oh
As
yeah,
a
that was a big home video. Monty Python
yeah,
live
yeah,
at the
yeah.
Hollywood Bowl.
Python Live. That was a
Oh
big
yeah,
deal at the time.
so I
Yeah,
could kind of relive the show. Watch the
yeah,
video and I was
Yeah,
there, you know.
yeah,
I had good
yeah,
seats too. So it was brilliant. But
yeah.
we're going to celebrate your book for fact's sake. What an incredible book. It was so voluminous, so
Have
many
you read it
books.
all now?
I have. I've been
Oh, great.
deep in it. And but first off, I want to, bring up, and
You've
I know
gone very
it's
quiet. I can barely hear you.
okay. I'll speak right into the mic. How's that?
Right, there you go. That's better. Yeah.
Okay. Um, you know, we had two events recently, and I just want to get your comments on them. I know it's old news in a sense, but people really believe and justifiably want you to get your due. And Ozzy got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he did mention Randy Rhoads. He did say, "Without Randy, I probably wouldn't be here," and I'm sure you testified to that. But
Yeah.
he could have taken a couple extra seconds and mentioned Bob Daisley. You know,
Oh no, no, I didn't expect that. I knew that was coming.
yeah,
Because there's been some dirty water gone under the bridge between us. There's been lawsuits and
yeah,
legal issues and that. So I was not surprised when I didn't get a mention.
I know, I know.
Many people thought that it was wrong and it was that I should have got a mention. But I really didn't expect it.
No, I
I
understand, but
wasn't surprised. You know,
the late great Lee Kerslake and Bob
yeah,
Daisley were as foundational as one Randy Rhoads, and you and Randy especially formed the team that really made so much of the music. Wrote the lyrics, came up with the melodies. Not to
yeah.
discount, John Osborne's part in it, but
Oh well, that's what it was. It was a chemistry and a formula that worked, and it worked very well. And if I don't think any one of us could have been replaced with anyone else, and have it work like it did. Ozzy's voice tone and melodies were integral to the sound and deliverance of all everything that we did. And Randy and me working together musically first, and then me writing the lyrics to Ozzy's vocal melodies. It all just gelled. And Lee was definitely the last piece of the puzzle that
yeah,
helped the chemistry and the big picture. He was. Uh, we'd auditioned so many different drummers, and
oh
hang
wow.
on, I'll get rid of this.
Yeah, I didn't
Just got
realize that Lee wasn't the first choice. You had a few people to go through.
Oh no, we had already auditioned about 40 drummers or something. Hang on, I'll just get rid of this
Yes,
call.
yes, go ahead.
Hello? Hello? Oh, okay. I'm just I'm on an important call from America, so can you call me back in an hour? Okay, look, okay, thanks for it. Cheers, bye-bye. Yeah,
Okay,
it was
no problem. Well, as we
right.
show the picture on the screen, you guys formed a band. It wasn't a solo act. It
Oh
was
yeah, it
you
was a
guys weren't
band. It was
hired
called,
as,
yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah, we
sidemen. It was
we
a
had
four-member
auditioned.
group, just like Led
Yeah.
Zeppelin.
Yeah, of course. That's what it was. It wasn't a solo project, and it wasn't, anything other than a band called the Blizzard of Oz. And that's we auditioned many drummers. I think probably 40 or so. That's all in my diary because I kept diaries at the time. And
Sure.
there were many drummers that we had. We were at different rehearsal places, writing the stuff and putting the songs together, and auditioning drummers at the same time. So we went through many drummers. Some were, nice blokes. Some played well. Some looked good, but you couldn't get that combination of where's the right guy. Until Lee Kerslake. He was the last person that we had to audition left on the list. We had no more. And Jet Records were saying to us, well, you've got to get this drummer guy, and unless you do, we're going to have to go into the studio because we need the product. And you're going to have to go in with a session player or somebody to guest on the album. But we didn't. We wanted to have the band complete and do it as the band, not with some session player or
Sure.
a guest drummer or whatever. And as soon as Lee started playing, because he'd had tapes of some of the songs that we were doing, and the first
Okay.
song we played together was "I Don't Know," and Randy and I looked at each other and thought, "Well, here's the guy. This is the guy. Where have you been?" And we just knew straight away, instinctively, this is the last piece of the puzzle, and Lee just fit like a hand in a glove, and off we went, and that's how the band was completed. You know,
Well, we obviously know Lee Kerslake from his legendary run with Uriah Heep,
yeah,
with
yeah.
Easy
I'd
Living
known
and
Lee
all that.
before
How
then.
long
Yeah.
had he been out of the Heap when you auditioned him?
Not very long. He had his own. He was trying to put a band together himself. I think it was called Blind Ambition, and he was trying to get that together. But then he got a call from the Jet Records office, and he came down to rehearse an
Okay.
audition with us. And because it went so well, he just joined the band, and that was it. That was the end of his solo, well, not solo, but his side venture as Blind Ambition joined us, and we went off down to Clearwell Castle the following week, rehearsed with Lee, taught him the songs, and it had 1 week down there, and then went to Ridge Farm to start the Ridge Farm Studios to start the album, the first one, Blizzard of Oz.
Now I know there was some talk from Jet Records that maybe you should have a British guitarist, but I know you knew in your heart that Randy Rhoads was the guy, and he's proved ever since that he was one of a kind. What kind of pushback or suggestions were they making? Like wanted an all British band.
Oh well, that was because when I first met Ozzy, I met him at the Music Machine, which was a club in Camden in London, and he'd been fired from Black Sabbath. I'd just come out of Rainbow, and somebody there from Jet Records, because there was another band on there that night, a band called Girl, and I went to
Right,
see
with
them knowing.
Phil Lewis from
Yes,
L.A.
yes, yes.
Guns,
Yeah,
and Phil
Phil
Collin from
Collins.
Def
Yeah,
Leppard.
yeah,
Sure, the
yeah,
two
yeah.
Phils.
Yeah, that's right. And I knew there'd be people from Jet Records there, so I knew that I'd know people. And one of them, who was Arthur Sharp, he worked in the office at Jet Records, introduced me. He said, "Ozzy's here tonight. Do you know Ozzy?" And he introduced me, and we got chatting. And Ozzy said to me, "Would you be interested in putting a band together?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. What have you got in mind?" Blah blah blah. And then I got a call from David Arden, who was Don Arden's son, Sharon's brother. And he said, Ozzy wants you to go up to the house in Stafford. So he got me a rail ticket, and I took a train up to Stafford. Ozzy met me at the station, took me to his house in Staffordshire. And he had a couple of other guys there, a guitarist and a drummer. And we had a play together. And I said to Ozzy, we went out in the kitchen to have a cup of tea. And I said, "Look, if you want to get serious about this," I said, "these two other guys," I said, "they're nice enough guys and they're decent players." And I said, "I wouldn't regard them as world class, though." He said, "Oh, okay, hang on a minute." He walked out and said, "Pack up, fellas, you can go home. It's not working out." And I remember that's what he did on the spot. As soon as I said that, that was it, gone. And then he said to me, "I know this guitarist in LA that I saw. His name's Randy Rhoads. He's really good. He's a guitar teacher." Well, when he said he's a guitar teacher, I sort of envisaged, somebody was older with, pipe and glasses and slippers and a cardigan or something.
Yes,
but
Professor
but it
hat
was
on.
David Arden. It was David Arden said, "Well, we'd rather try if we can keep it a UK based band with, this guy's unknown. He's young. He's American. He didn't want to fly Randy over, but eventually." Ozzy and I said, "Well, because that was how the Blizzard of Oz started, just me and Ozzy." And then we got Randy flown over. David Arden, I still remember his words. He said, "Against my better judgment, I agreed to fly Randy over." He did, and the three of us met up in Jet Records, and went up to Ozzy's place and started just playing together and putting song ideas together. And then after that, soon after that, we started auditioning drummers.
Well, what a band it was. And, obviously, within a year, you cut the second record, Diary of a Madman, but a little chicanery is going on where they bring in Rudy Sarzo and Tommy Aldridge, and
Oh, that was after the album was done. Yeah,
yeah, but it looked like on the album that they had recorded the album, and obviously it was
that's
Bob
what it was made
Daisley
to
and
look
Lee
like.
Kerslake that did the
Yep,
album.
yep. That was disgusting. Lee and I put a lot of work into that album, especially, I I suggested that Max Norman get a production credit because he was house engineer at Ridge Farm, and I said this is his second album with us. Let's give him a production credit as well. And then I didn't get one. I didn't get my production credit, and I put a lot of ideas into that album, and and obviously had co-written all the songs and played on everything, and then they credited bass and drums to Tommy Aldrich and Rudy Sarzo, who hadn't played a note or a beat on it.
Wow.
Mm.
Well, again, this is the first of many slights, and we want to
Oh
put the
yeah,
spotlight back on you where it firmly belongs. And I know you've heard the news today. We woke up to it that Ozzy and Sabbath are going to do their final ever show in Birmingham. And
right.
interesting enough, included in the mix is Rudy Sarzo and Jakey Lee, which,
What?
yeah, they
What are
are.
they doing?
It's a Ozzy set before the Sabbath set. They got Bill
Oh, I
Ward on
see.
drums. So uh, Tony always said, "Hey, that final Sabbath show we did wasn't Sabbath, so we're gonna do Sabbath. We got to include Bill."
Yeah.
Um,
How can you have Black Sabbath without Bill Ward?
well, come on.
And
I mean,
that's silly.
it's not like he's dead. I mean,
Exactly. That's
he's
right.
alive,
That's
alive
right.
and well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
adjust accordingly. But yeah, in the Ozzy set, it's listed Jakey Lee and Rudy Sarzo, and of course Zach Wild is also there. So again, the question is asked: where the hell is Bob Daisley? You know,
Yeah. Well,
we know
I,
Lee Kerslake can't show up. That's
right.
obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but you're the biggest collaborator Ozzy ever had in his solo career, consistently
Yep.
over those first five albums. So
Yep. Yep. Yep.
it's
Yep.
it's one thing, the two albums with Randy Rhoads; those will go down in history as Ozzy's greatest albums and two of the greatest hard rock albums in
Well, yeah.
history.
Well, that established the act.
Oh
That
yeah.
was the foundation for
Well,
the
here
whole
come here comes
empire to be
Jakey Lee
built
for
on.
two more albums, and
Yeah.
Jake gets slighted on his credits and songwriting and all of that. So
Mm.
it's kind of interesting. And Jake hasn't picked up a guitar in the last few years. And yeah, I know
Yeah.
the news. He was shot last year in Las Vegas.
Yes. Yes.
He's recovering from
Didn't
that.
one of the bullets hit him in the arm as well? I hope
Oh
he's
yeah,
healing all right.
oh yeah. He
Mm.
got hit like five times.
Yeah, yeah. I think it
So
was three, wasn't it?
it was 3 to 5. Yeah, it was
Mm.
multiple shots hit. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
they sprayed him with bullets, so at least three, four, or five hit him. Um,
Right.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it three. It was three went into it.
it's possible. It's possible.
Mm.
Um, but at least he wasn't killed, in that
That's right.
shooting.
That's right. The main thing is he's still here. Yeah.
Yeah, and Rudy's such a nice guy. He'll show up for anybody that needs him or wants him. Rudy's just such a nice guy. But those bass parts, your lyrics, your melodies on Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman and
Well, the
Bark at the
melodies are
Moon.
Aussies. The melodies are Aussies. The lyrics are mine.
Yes,
Yeah, and the music was
Ultimate
co-written
Sin
between.
and yeah,
Yeah.
all of that. Even your
Yeah.
collaboration when Zach came in. So
Yeah.
a lot of people woke up like, okay, that sounds interesting. Ozzy hasn't sung in years, and Jake hasn't played guitar in years, and
Yeah.
we know Zach can do his thing, um, but it just seems a little odd. I guess they're trying to put a nail in the coffin of the solo career and Sabbath all at once. But
Well,
we
it'll be a farewell thing, really, won't it, for
yeah,
altogether, I
oh
suppose.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but I
yeah.
mean,
I
Ozzy couldn't
just hope
even
they pull
perform
it
at the
off and
Hall of
that,
Fame. He
you know,
didn't
I just
even.
hope they pull it off and it comes out good rather than, who wants to end on a bad note and or be remembered as being,
No,
subpar. So
that's it. I,
I
I
just I
think
just hope
what's
they pull it off and that it's good.
what allegedly is going on is they're going to surround the day and the band with a lot of other bands like Metallica and people that were influenced by Sabbath.
Right.
And, obviously Ozzy took, Metallica out on their breakthrough tour and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think people will get their money's worth with all the support acts. And by the time they go through the final set, maybe 4 songs from Ozzy and, 10 or 12 from Sabbath, they'll feel like they got their full day's worth. But,
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
I know in our hearts as the fans go, um, we feel Bob Daisley should be there, and we're certainly going to recognize you on that day and
Well,
salute you.
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, but I think I couldn't be invited to something like that, and even if I was, would I want to be there? It's I really don't
Well,
know.
well, that's what we
It's
thought when they announced Jake E. Lee, because Jake
yeah,
has had major issues. He's gone on
yeah,
television saying,
uh,
"Where the hell's my credits? Even without the money, just give me my credit." My God, I
yeah.
wrote all music and lyrics by Ozzy Osbourne. I didn't know Ozzy played the guitar. I mean, come on. I I wrote all those riffs. Bark at the Moon, man. We sold millions of copies. What's going on?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a travesty, and I know
To be
it's
honest with you, I don't think I'd want to be a part of that day.
it would be awkward, I'm sure.
it'll be awkward, but it could turn out as an embarrassment as well. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, well, at least Bill Ward agreed to do it. I know he couldn't come to
Well,
terms
I'm
on that
pleased
farewell
about that.
tour they did.
He was a big part of Sabbath, and he's a nice bloke, and he's a decent person, and it's. Well, they were all good guys. I liked all the Sabbath people. They were nice blokes, all of
Yeah,
them. I never had a problem with any one of them. They were all nice.
and I'm sure they'll give a nod to Randy Rhoads that day. I am glad
Oh,
that
sure they will.
Randy is
Yeah,
being remembered. I mean, you've had a long career before and after the Blizzard of Oz, but
yeah.
Randy never really broke through. Didn't get a U.S. record deal for the first version of Quiet Riot, and those 2 records is really all that Randy is remembered. Sure, there's some live stuff and videos, but from Burbank, California, right down the street from us, and in North Hollywood, the Masonia School of Music. I mean,
Yeah,
Randy is forever celebrated, but it was such a short discography. It's really a shame we didn't get
it
to see
really
him.
was. It was a tragedy and a terrible, terrible thing to happen at such a young age and such an early time in his career, and just when he was breaking through, and it was heartbreaking. It was awful. It was. Randy didn't really get. Well, I don't think he was in the right environment to shine in Quiet Riot. It
Right.
took being in the environment with
Oh yeah.
us. Ozzy had come from Sabbath, obviously. Lee had come from Uriah Heep. I'd just come out of Rainbow, and though, and Rainbow, Sabbath, and Uriah Heep were all sort of heavy, tough bands, and that's the sort of environment that Randy needed to be in to bring out what it was waiting to come out. So without that, I don't think Randy would have shone like he did. So it was all meant to happen, and it was destined and fated. And it was a real pleasure and honor for me to work with with Randy. He was, a great musician, a great writer, a great player, and he had his own thing. He had obviously there've been lots of great guitar players, but Randy had something special. He really did, and still it remains. Every time you listen to that, it sounds just as special as it did
Well, you'll probably hear
back
it at the
30 years
Super
ago.
Bowl. You'll probably hear it at the Super Bowl on Sunday, one of the biggest sporting events in the world besides the World Cup. And you
Oh,
hear it at
okay.
every football game and athletic event. Crazy Train comes cranking through the stadium PA, and everybody gets charged up. It is
Right, right. Yeah,
even
that's great.
bigger than
I
"We
mean,
Will Rock
I
You" by
love the
Queen.
idea.
It's the
Yeah,
number one
I
anthem.
love the idea that Crazy Train's been used like that because it's become a signature tune, synonymous with those big sporting events, and that's for me that's brilliant.